You reach your desk at 8:47 a.m. with coffee in hand and a plan for the morning. 3 hours of focused work before the first meeting. By 10:14 a.m., you have read the same paragraph 4 times, 6 notifications. 2 colleagues stopped by to ask questions. Someone 3 rows over is on a speakerphone call about something that definitely could have been an email. The open Slack channel flickers with updates about a project you aren't even on. You have not written a single new sentence. And yet, by the end of the day, you will feel exhausted. You will have been busy, and you will ask yourself what you actually accomplished. This is the paradox that defines modern work more than any performance metric or quarterly report. Everyone is busy. Nothing gets done. And the strangest part? The system was designed to produce exactly this outcome. Let me show you the evidence. You have been told that the open office fosters collaboration, that distractions are a personal failing of focus, that if you just managed your time better, used Pomodoro technique, wore noise-canceling headphones, you could outrun the chaos. But here is what nobody tells you. The environmental psychology research has known for decades that this model actively destroys the conditions required for complex cognitive work, and companies keep building it anyway. Why? You have seen the first layer of the trap, but most people stop here and think they have understood the whole thing. They have not. If this moment of recognition hit you, that feeling of your own experience being named for the first time, then subscribe to keep uncovering layers like this. The deeper architecture of why work feels broken is just beginning to surface. And leave a comment with one word: paradox. Not because it's clever, because you just realized it applies to more than your deadline. In 1970, the furniture company Herman Miller released a product that would change office design forever. They called it the Action Office 2, and it was designed by Robert Probst, a researcher who had spent years studying how knowledge workers actually behave. Probst discovered something crucial. Deep focus requires what environmental psychologists call proxemic privacy, the ability to control who enters your personal space and when. So he designed a system of movable panels, adjustable surfaces, and semi-enclosed workspaces that gave workers control over their environment. The Action Office 2 was, in essence, the cubicle. And it was brilliant. But something happened on the way to the market. Real estate executives realized that the panels could be lowered, the walls removed, and the desks packed closer together. The same floor space that held 20 semi-enclosed workstations could now hold 40 open desks. The cost savings were immediate and measurable. The productivity loss was invisible. By 1984, the average office worker in the United States had lost 67% of their private workspace compared to 1970. The walls came down, the noise went up, and the cognitive cost began to compound. Here is what the studies actually show. In 2005, a team of environmental psychologists at the University of California, Irvine, placed heart rate monitors on workers in both open and enclosed offices. They found that workers in open environments experienced 32% more cortisol spikes during the workday. Cortisol is your stress hormone. It floods your system when you perceive a threat. And here is the part that changes everything. Your brain does not distinguish between a physical threat and a territorial one. When a colleague walks past your desk unannounced, when a voice rises 3 rows away, when someone leans into your field of view without warning, your ancient neural circuitry interprets this as an intrusion into your territory. Your amygdala fires, your cortisol rises. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex reasoning, planning, and sustained attention, shuts down. This is not a focus problem. This is a biological reflex, and it happens, on average, every 11 minutes in a typical open office. You have experienced this. You know you have. That feeling of being in the middle of a thought, of reaching for the next logical connection, and then someone taps your shoulder or a phone rings or a conversation erupts nearby. The thought vanishes. It does not come back. You sit there, staring at the screen, trying to retrieve something that your brain has already flagged as unimportant because your survival circuitry was triggered. This is where the data stops being abstract and starts naming your exact 3 p.m. experience. Your cortisol did not spike because you were stressed. It spiked because your brain treated every passing figure as a territorial intrusion. And that is just the beginning. The researchers call this attentional residue. When you are interrupted, your brain does not fully disengage from the previous task. a portion of your cognitive resources remains locked onto what you were doing before. This means that even after the interruption ends, you are operating at reduced capacity. One study from the University of Michigan found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a complex task after a 10-second interruption. 23 minutes for a 10-second disruption. Now multiply that by the average number of interruptions in a day. 15, 20, 30. The math is devastating. You are losing hours of cognitive output per day, not because you are unfocused, but because the environment is engineered to dismantle focus. And yet, companies continue to insist that open plans increase collaboration. They point to the water cooler effect, the idea that spontaneous encounters spark innovation. The evidence for this is remarkably thin. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology tracked 200 workers before and after their company moved to an open plan. Face-to-face interaction dropped by 70%. Email and messaging increased by 50%. Workers found ways to avoid the very collisions the design was supposed to create. They wore headphones. They arrived early and left late. They communicated through screens because the physical space was too overwhelming for actual conversation. You just trace the architecture of your own exhaustion back to its source. The evidence is mounting, and it points to something most people never articulate. If you want to stay with this investigation, to see the full map of how work environments are weaponized against your biology, subscribe so you do not miss the next layer. And in the comments, write the number that hit you hardest, 23, 70, or 32. That one data point became the key that unlocked the whole pattern. Write this in your mind. What part of this did you already know but never said out loud? Because the strange part is not that workers lose focus. The strange part is that environmental psychologists have been measuring this for decades while companies continue building the same layouts. In 1997, the consulting firm Gensler conducted a study of 1,000 workers across 5 countries. They found that workers in private offices reported 47% higher job satisfaction and 33% higher performance ratings than those in open plans. The results were so clear that the firm began advising clients to limit open seating to roles that genuinely require constant collaboration. Most ignored the advice. Why? Because the savings were too large to ignore. A company that moves 500 employees from cubicles to open desks can save roughly $3 million per year in real estate costs. That is real money. And the costs, the lost productivity, the increased turnover, the higher stress-related absenteeism, are harder to measure. They are distributed across departments, buried in HR reports, invisible on a quarterly balance sheet. In 2012, a team at Harvard Business School analyzed the financial performance of 136 companies that had adopted open plans. They found no measurable improvement in collaboration metrics. They found a 15% increase in voluntary turnover among high-performing workers. The people who could leave did. The ones who stayed were the ones who needed the paycheck, not the ones who did the best work. This is the hidden architecture of the modern office. It is not designed to maximize your output. It is designed to minimize the organization's cost. And those two goals happen to be in direct opposition. Remember what I said from earlier about the Action Office Steward 2? The original cubicle was a tool for cognitive autonomy. Its transformation into a control device happened gradually, invisibly, through a series of decisions made by people who never sat in one. The same pattern is unfolding right now with open plans. The benefits accrue to the organization. The costs are borne by you. And that cost is not just productivity, it is your health. Multiple long-term studies have linked chronic exposure to open plan environments with elevated blood pressure, increased anxiety, and higher rates of depression. The mechanism is straightforward. Your nervous system was not designed to remain in a state of low-grade hypervigilance for 8 hours a day. But that is exactly what open offices demand. You are always scanning, always anticipating, always ready for the next intrusion. This is not a feature of modern work. It is a feature of the environment you are placed in. In 2014, researchers at the University of Sydney tracked 41,000 workers over 5 years. They found that those in open plans took 62% more sick days than those in private offices. The open plan workers reported higher rates of respiratory infections, stress-related illnesses, and musculoskeletal complaints. The physical environment was making them sick. But here is the part that nobody wants to acknowledge. The same companies that spend millions on wellness programs, ergonomic chairs, and standing desks are simultaneously designing workspaces that undermine all of those investments. The wellness initiatives are theater. The real cost is the layout. Consider the case of Pixar. In 2000, Steve Jobs designed the company's Emeryville headquarters specifically to create what he called collaborative collisions: central atrium, shared bathrooms, mailboxes in the main hall. The idea was that employees would run into each other naturally, sparking creative conversations. It worked, in part, because Pixar's workforce was small, highly motivated, and engaged in collaborative work by definition. But when other companies tried to replicate the model without those conditions, the results were disastrous. Bank of America tried it in 2018. Internal audits revealed that the open plan cost them $1.2 million annually in lost productivity across a single division. They rebuilt cubicles within 18 months. The point is not that collaboration is bad. The point is that the environment required for deep individual work is fundamentally incompatible with the environment required for spontaneous group interaction. You cannot have both in the same space, and the current design attempts to have both, delivering neither. You just sat through the autopsy of a system engineered to fracture your attention. Now ask yourself, what part of that algorithm are you still running? This is just the surface. What comes next changes everything. Here is the continuation, ending the narrative cleanly. And yet, the trap is not in the layout itself. The trap is the belief that this is the only way work can be done. The research we just walked through has been available for over 50 years. The studies have been replicated. The data is public, and the architects of these environments know it. They know that the open office reduces focus. They know it increases stress. They know it drives away top performers. They continue building them not because the evidence is unclear, but because the cost of ignoring the evidence is paid by you, not by them. The pieces are all in front of you now. The architecture is laid bare, but this is the moment where most people stop. They nod, they feel vindicated, and they go back to the same desk tomorrow. If you refuse to be part of that statistic, subscribe now. The next investigation goes even deeper into what happens to your cognition when you have no control over your environment at all. And before you leave, comment the line that changed your frame, the exact phrase from this video that you will use the next time someone tells you to just focus. The evidence is yours now. Do not let it sit unused.